Don't cover my fucking camera.
I thought I just had
No, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Don't cover my fucking camera. What the fuck do you want?
Okay, there's no need for that name calling.
You.
A woman exchanges words with police through her smart doorbell, and most of her words are what my grandmother would refer to as blue language. In fact, to make her less than 3-minute exchange with officers safe for social media, we had to insert almost 100 bleeps. So what's the deal with cursing out the cops? Is that a crime? Could it be mere poor judgment? Is it your right? Let's talk about it. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca for Law of Self-Defense, and for those of you who stayed to the end, I'll share with you how you can get a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, your handbook to being hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. So what we have to share with you is a video from a smart doorbell that captures a roughly 3-minute exchange between a woman, apparently named Dawn, and presumably the resident of the home, and at least 4 police officers standing outside her front door. I'm going to jump right into the video, but fair warning, we've done our best to bleep out Dawn's bad words, but when the number of bleeps we inserted began to approach triple digits, again, in an exchange of less than 3 minutes, I have to confess we might have missed 1 or 2. My apologies if that happened. And with that caution, let's get into it. Law of Self-Defense community, meet Dawn.
You're going to need to get your hand off my fucking camera right now.
I apologize.
Get your fucking hand. Don't cover my fucking camera. Listen, don't cover my fucking camera. Don't cover my fucking camera.
I thought I just had
No, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Don't fucking cover my fucking camera. What the fuck do you want?
Okay, there's no need for that name calling.
You. So you know what? There's no need for you to be all secret shady covering the fucking camera. What do you fucking want, bitch?
That's an officer safety protocol that we usually
No,
hear.
oh really? No, for my safety protocol, you ain't covering my fucking cameras. You're violating my fucking constitutional rights. What the fuck do you want?
I am here to talk to you. Are you home?
You.
Are you home?
Get the fuck off. Get the fuck off my property. You got a fucking warrant? Get the fuck off my fucking property.
I actually do have a warrant.
Whoa, really? Get the fuck off my property.
It's
Bye.
just scam.
Bye, you fucking cunts. Bye, get the fuck off my property.
Are you home to come out and talk with me?
Yeah, I'm inside hiding from you. That's what I fucking do, you dumb cunt. Get the fuck off my fucking property, man. You know how many times you guys have accused me of hiding in the fucking house from you? Get your fucking hand off my fucking camera and get away from my fucking camera. Get the fuck off my property. Right now, get the fuck off my property. Get the fuck off my property. What do you not fucking comprehend? Show me a fucking warrant. You got a warrant, show me.
You're losing connection, ma'am.
You fucking ugly. Get the fuck off my fucking property.
Are you able to restart or something?
No. Get the fuck off my property.
Are you home right now?
Stop take all your fucking friends with you. Bye.
It's just a few of us here.
Bye. You, I don't give a fuck who's there. Nobody's welcome. Get the fuck off my property. You can stand on the fucking curb, and then you can show me your fucking warrant. But until then, I suggest you get the fuck off my property. The same fucking Ruby Ridge, too. Get all your little fucking pigs off my property. Get the fuck out of here, all you little fucking cops. Fucking coward cunts.
No need for that name calling.
Yeah, fuck you, bitch. You pointed fucking ARs at me. Fuck you, cunt. Can't wait till the fucking, yeah, fuck you.
Okay, so obviously Dawn feels strongly in a negative way about the police, and particularly about them being at her home and covering her smart doorbell camera. It seems she's had a bad encounter with the police previously in which they'd pointed an AR rifle at her, and really nobody would much enjoy that experience, I suppose. But what about Dawn's profanity-laced diatribe at these officers? They aren't pointing ARs at anybody, at least at the moment. In fact, the female police officer was painstakingly polite and even-tempered, despite Dawn's sustained foul language directed at her. Is it a crime for Dawn to cuss out the police like this? Is it poor judgment? Or is it her constitutional right? In fact, it is the constitutional right of Dawn or any other American to cuss out the police or anybody else acting as an agent of the government. It's certainly no crime. Now, there is a facet to this particular exchange that keeps the discussion rather cleaner in an analytical sense, not a language sense. than might otherwise be the case, and that's that this exchange is done remotely, without the parties being in each other's presence. Because the parties are not in each other's presence, there's no potential for the verbal exchange to transition from mere words to physical conduct. Because while you can use rough words with the police all you want, the same can't be true for physical conduct. In fact, if the particular words chosen can be reasonably perceived as threatening imminent conduct, I'm coming out of my house and shooting all of you, well, that could reasonably prompt the police to take measures to defend themselves from that communicated imminent physical threat. But Dawn makes no such threats in her speech directed at these cops, so here there's no risk of a physical confrontation, even if she's actually in the house. And of course, smart doorbells do not require that you be in the house in order to communicate over them. So if Dawn is not even present, she's doing this remotely, then there's literally zero prospect of things going physical. So Dawn can't be in a position where it can be argued she had gone beyond mere words and was threatening physical violence. Another way in which the lack of any physical context here is helpful is not merely that Dawn might have been perceived as a physical threat to the officers, but that the officers might themselves have lost their cool and become a physical threat to Dawn. In other words, the lack of physical context also makes it unlikely that Dawn's cussing at the cops could end up being a case of just poor judgment. Not every police officer exercises good judgment at all times, and it's certainly easier to remain unperturbed by profanities being shouted over a speaker rather than profanities being shouted into one's face in person. Police are just humans too. So in the absence of any potential context of things going physical, with neither party in a position to take physical action against each other, the nearly 100 profanities that Dawn hurls at the police are not only not crimes, they are constitutionally privileged free speech, and they are unlikely to carry the consequences of in-person poor judgment when interacting with the police. Certainly, if Dawn wished to speak this harshly to the police, and even if she was physically present in the home, it was more prudent to have this communication keeping her door closed and over the doorbell speaker. Once that door is cracked open even a little bit, it begins to become more ambiguous whether perhaps you're providing implicit consent for the police to enter. And police have been known to stick a boot in the doorway to prevent the door from being closed again, rather trapping the resident in the doorway where the police can keep up face-to-face communication and even force their way in without having to leave evidence of a forcible entry. What else can we tell about this encounter based on the actions, or rather the inactions, on the part of these police? Well, at one point, the female officer informs Dawn that they are in possession of a warrant. Now, it's possible the officer is just lying. She certainly never displays a warrant, but it would seem a foolish lie to make when you know you're being recorded. If the police did have a warrant, however, we can be certain that it is not a warrant that allows them entry into this home. How do we know that? Because of the warrant authorized entry, if it were, say, a search warrant for the premises, the cops would simply have taken down the door and entered, regardless of what Dawn might have been shouting at them over the doorbell. Of course, there are other kinds of warrants, such as arrest warrants, which authorize the police to take an individual into custody. If the police know that a person named in a warrant is in a building, they can breach the building if necessary to secure the arrest of that person. But they would need to have reason to know the person named in the warrant was in the building. It's possible that these police were hoping that Dawn would affirm for them that a person named in an arrest warrant was in the home, in which case they could have forced entry. But of course, Dawn affirmed nothing of the sort, so she provided no excuse for these officers to force entry. Now, does all that mean that I would advise a client of mine to communicate with the police in this way, even over a doorbell speaker? As emotionally satisfying as this all appeared to be for Dawn, I'd have to say this is not an approach I would recommend. That doesn't mean be subservient to the police. You have rights, assert your rights. But being a foul mouth doesn't get you more rights. It doesn't really bring you an additional advantage in dealing with the police. It probably doesn't make you look more favorable in the eyes of a prosecutor, judge, or jury who control your legal fate. So from an arm's length distance, like I am as a lawyer with a client, as not the person at which the police had previously pointed ARs, as not having the emotional engagement in this encounter that Dawn has, as a counselor removed from the heat of the moment, I would recommend a calmer, less profane approach to interacting with the police. And maybe that interaction simply takes the form of calmly informing the police, I don't answer questions. Maybe saying that several times. If the police believe they have the authority to arrest you, they'll just arrest you. If they believe they have the authority to enter your home, they'll just enter your home. I'd advise not getting into a gunfight over either of those situations. A later court might agree that the police had authority. Or maybe a court will find they did not have that authority, and you'll be entitled to some compensation. But not answering questions certainly prevents you from making incriminating statements, and that's always going to be the greatest concern for any lawyer whose client is interacting with the police. And that's about all I have to say about that for the moment. Okay, folks, before I wrap up, I do want to share with you how you can get your free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, your handbook to being hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. We translate all the legalese into plain English so you can make better informed, more confident, more legally sound, and more decisive decisions in defense of what you value most. And perhaps best of all, most people tell us they can read the entire book in less than an afternoon. Check the book out on Amazon where it's 5-star rated, but don't buy it there. They'll charge you $25 for the book plus shipping and handling. Order the book from us, and we only ask that you cover the cost of shipping the book to you. The book itself is free. Grab your free copy of The Law of Self-Defense Principles right now at lawofselfdefense.com/freebook. I'll close out by reminding all of you that if you carry a gun so you're hard to kill, that's why I carry a gun so I'm hard to kill, so my family is hard to kill, then you also owe it to yourself and your family to know the law so you're hard to convict as well. Until next time, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca at lawofselfdefense.com. Stay safe.